The New York Islanders hold on for a 2-1 win over the Boston Bruins, courtesy of Ilya Sorokin. And Lou Lamoriello sounds like he will not be selling at the trade deadline. We've got all that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Gil Martin. I have been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the present day. So glad you could join us today for a little Islanders talk, and we have got a lot to cover today. A win over the Boston Bruins. We've got some upsetting quotes from Lou Lamoriello, and we'll preview Saturday's game against Nashville. Let's start with the good news. The Islanders hold on for a 2-1 win over the Boston Bruins in Boston. That ends the 4-game losing streak and keeps whatever very faint pulse that this team may have when it comes to trying to make the playoffs alive. A loss would have certainly ended it. They may be on life support, but, to quote Monty Python, they're not dead yet. And, realistically, it is time for this team to start to, figure out what it's going to do. But right now, the fact of the matter is that the Islanders remain 7 points behind the second wild card spot. They have 1 game in hand on Columbus, and they still have 6 teams they need to pass. Now, the Islanders, they played a poor game, really, against Boston. There is no doubt the Bruins were the better team. And yet this game was, in many ways, a mirror image of what happened Tuesday against the Rangers. Islanders outshot 39-20 in this game. And the only reason that they won, Ilya Sorokin stood on his head. 38 saves in 39 shots to make up for his disappointing performance on Tuesday. And the Islanders get just enough offense, goals by Romanov and Palmieri, and they end up winning the hockey game. They really were outplayed almost from start to finish, but 2 reasons that the Islanders were able to win this game. Number 1, as I said, Sorokin did a great job. Number 2, even in the third period, when the Islanders were being completely dominated, spending large amounts of time in their own zone, they did a good job of keeping the Bruins on the perimeter and out of the high danger areas. So, yeah, the Bruins had a lot of zone time. They were winning almost every 50-50 puck battles. The Islanders couldn't get possession of the puck, but the Islanders kept the Bruins near the boards and back at the points and did not allow them too many point-blank, high-danger chances late, and that was just enough to hold on and win the hockey game. So 2 points for the Islanders. They get it done in regulation. However, again, you look at the scoreboard, the Flyers lost in overtime. They got a point. The Canadiens got 2 points. Columbus beat Detroit. They got 2 points. And, you don't gain any ground. You just keep pace this way with the win. And there were some weird moments in this game. To me, the strangest moment was Brock Nelson getting called for a penalty Matthew Poitras gets hit by Nelson. The door to the Islanders bench just happened to be open. He hits the door awkwardly, gets hurt. Unfortunately, we hope he's okay. But boy, oh boy, the way the referees handled this was just kind of strange in that they call a major penalty, but do not say what the penalty is. And then they go and review it, and it gets reduced down to a minor. Kind of a strange way to handle it. Again, the officiating kind of strange, but the Islanders find a way to get it done and to end the losing streak. Let's see where we go from here. As far as our hero and GOAT of the game are concerned, I think these are fairly easy. The hero of the game, it's got to be Ilya Sorokin. He was by far the reason the Islanders won this game. Just as poorly as he played Tuesday, that's how well he played last night in Boston. And for the GOAT of the game, I got to go to Tony DeAngelo, who had the only Bruins goal actually was an own goal that deflected off DeAngelo in front of the net. And no, it wasn't intentional. And I'm not, saying that Tony DeAngelo played horribly, but at the same time, not a good job on that play. Got to be a little bit more aware of where the puck is, where the players are, and it just did not, click for Tony DeAngelo on that play. The Islanders did make a few lineup changes. Hudson Fasching back in the lineup, and, he played 9:47. Had a one decent scoring opportunity, had a hit, had a couple of shots on goal, was at least noticeable. So Pierre Engvall sits, Scott Mayfield sits, and then obviously Noah Dobson back in the lineup, replacing Scott Perunovich. And look, for Dauber, he only played 19 minutes, which is well below his usual average. And he didn't have a great game, but at the same time, he was a +2. And, it was just good to see him back out there on the ice. That, I think, is the bottom line. And it'll take him a few games to get back into, to get used to the speed and the tempo of games rather than practices, and to get his stamina back. But at least Noah Dobson is back in the lineup. And now the Islanders actually have multiple defensemen who can skate with the puck in DeAngelo, Dobson, and Boqvist. So you've got that going. And, that is a plus. Maxim Siplikov banged up at one point, did manage to return, but he only played 10:38 in this game. So obviously, that was a concern, but at least he was able to come back. And, you take the 2 points, happy to see the losing streak come to a close, but the question is, what happens next? And, we are 1 week away from the trade deadline. 1 week exactly. And there are important decisions that have to be made by Lou Lamoriello and the New York Islanders organization. We are going to talk about that, including a disturbing quote that Lou Lamoriello made about Brock Nelson. We'll preview Saturday's game against the Nashville Predators. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a Finnish forward who scored 36 goals for the Islanders in 1987-88. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So we had some rather disturbing quotes coming from Lou Lamoriello on Thursday. And look, it's hard to accept, right, that the Islanders have only a very slim chance of still making the playoffs. You had scouts from more than half the league in attendance at the Islanders Bruins game. And yet, in an interview with Pierre LeBrun of The Athletic on Thursday, here's what Lou Lamoriello said when asked about the interest in center Brock Nelson. He's an Islander, and he's certainly an integral part of our team. That does not sound like somebody who is ready to part with Brock Nelson. And here's what LeBron said in analyzing that. He's kind of holding up a lot of things. There's so many teams looking for center help, but there's still no clear indication from the New York Islanders that Brock Nelson will actually be made available. Think about that. Think about that. The New York Islanders are clinging to, at best, a 20% chance of making the playoffs. Brock Nelson is an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season. He is 33. He will turn 34 in October. Even if you sign him to a contract, you have to expect diminishing returns. You are not, you see, the assumption that people make who want Brock Nelson to be re-signed is this. Brock Nelson is one of our best goal scorers. He's one of our better offensive players on a team that is starved for offense. If you trade Brock Nelson, who is your second line center? And, we need Brock Nelson going forward if we want to continue to be competitive. Here's the problem. At the age of 34, when next season starts, Brock Nelson is not likely to continue to produce at the same level that he's been producing. He's already well off last year's pace of 34 goals in 82 games. He has 17 goals right now in 58 games. He will score 23 goals, maybe 24, if he keeps up this pace. That is 10, 11 goals less than he scored a year ago. He certainly has not played at the same level he played the last 3 seasons at. And statistically, historically, if you view the age of players and their point performance, once you hit 34, 35, 36, the odds are you are not going to be as productive as you were at 30 and 31. Brock Nelson can get at least a 4 or 5 year contract if he is an unrestricted free agent this summer. And because of the shortage of centers available right now and Brock Nelson's history and experience, he would be the perfect rental Teams would fight over each other to try to get Brock Nelson at the trade deadline, whether it's as a rental or a sign and trade or trade and sign from the other team's point of view. You keep Brock Nelson, you tie up cap money, and you get diminishing returns, and you probably have to overpay because Brock Nelson can simply say this: Lou, guess what? If I hit the open market, I'm getting a 5-year deal at $6-7 million a year. Maybe even if it's 5.5, 6. If you can't match that deal or come super close to matching it, I have no reason to stay. And maybe he does give a slight hometown discount. Maybe there is a certain value to, staying in his home and having his kids in the same school and all of that stuff. But there's also another value: winning the Stanley Cup. Brock Nelson has spent all of his career with the New York Islanders, has never played in a cup final. He's going to be 34 at the start of, or very shortly after the start of, next season. Time is running out. Maybe he has 4 years left in his NHL career. If he wants a chance to win a Stanley Cup, he's got a lot of other opportunities that would give him a much better chance than staying with the Islanders. He'll make more money if he hits the open market as a free agent, and he'll get longer term to set up his family for even more for the rest of his life and maybe his children's life. Logic dictates for Brock Nelson that it's probably better to be elsewhere. And for the New York Islanders, for an aging team that is stuck in the muddy middle, everydayers, you will remember I talked about in a salary cap world, maximizing the value of your assets. And make no mistake, to a general manager, players are assets. Cap money is an asset. If you don't trade Brock Nelson right now, you are not maximizing the value of your asset. I am a big Brock Nelson fan. I respect everything he's done for this organization, for this team, for the fans. He is a class act on and off the ice. There is an adage in sports: it is always better to trade a player a year too soon than a year too late. That's maximizing your assets. Lou Lamoriello, if he does not move Brock Nelson, is not maximizing his assets. And as this team gets older and the performance of this team continues to slide lower and lower down below the muddy middle into the we need a full rebuild, it is just not acceptable. It doesn't make any sense to try to re-sign Brock Nelson or Kyle Palmieri and not to make this team, everydayers, you've heard me say it, younger, faster, and more skilled. And re-signing Brock Nelson, bringing back the same guys again, the same guys who haven't won a playoff series in 3 years and who it looks very, very much like this will be the 4th year in a row, you can't do that. You cannot do that. I respect everything Lou Lamoriello has accomplished in his Hall of Fame career as a hockey executive. But he has not done a good job of retooling this team. To everything, there is a season. There is a time to go all in. There is a time to retool. There is a time to rebuild. This Islanders team is on the back end. We're closing the window on retool, and we're fast approaching the, oh no, we're going to have to stink for 4, 5, 6 years and hope that our general manager gets some good draft picks, pulls off some good trades, and we get a little bit lucky and we can build ourselves into a contender. Lou cannot hold on to Brock Nelson. Maybe even if it's a 1-year deal, the asset value will never be this high again. And hearing that quote, look, maybe I'm missing something, okay? Maybe this is a master class by shrewd negotiator Lou Lamoriello, who says to Pierre LeBrun, oh yeah, he's an integral part of our team. We're not thinking of trading him. And that just encourages other teams to say, oh, Lou, you don't want to trade him? What if I offer you more? What if I give you another draft pick or another player or another prospect? If he does that, that's really smart. But if you go by Lou's track record, that's not what he's probably doing. The rumors are that Lou is trying to extend Brock Nelson. He has 1 week left to do it. And if he does, I can tell you right now, he's going to lose a lot of fans who are already, and we're going to talk about this more on Monday, but a lot of fans are already losing interest in this team. Empty seats, less people watching games, less people actively caring about this team because of the way it's being run. And I'll tell you something right now. Fan is short for fanatic. And if your fanatics are indifferent about your team, that is the worst thing for a sports team, period. You can love your team. You could hate your team. You could be frustrated. You could be angry. But you can't be indifferent. You cannot not care. That's the worst possible outcome. All right, we've got a lot more to get to on today's show. Islanders, Predators. Can the Islanders win a matinee? We'll find out. We'll preview that game. We'll have our Islanders birthday of the day. All that coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Trade Coffee. If you're like me, your mornings have to start with a good cup of coffee, but I got tired of settling for grocery store brands that just weren't cutting it. That's why I turned to Trade, and let me tell you, this coffee is next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee marketplace in the U.S., bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste tested thousands of coffees, curating over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or know exactly what you like, they'll handpick the perfect match for you. I took their quick quiz, and in under a minute, they matched me with a roast that was fresh, smelled incredible, and tasted even better. My first bag was a game changer. It had such a smooth, rich flavor that I could actually taste the difference from my usual coffee. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 40% off your first order at drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL. That's drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL for 40% off your first order. drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage that you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Don't forget, I co-host the Friday edition with Rachel Donner, and I do host the Monday show on Locked On NHL. Will the Islanders ever play well and win a matinee? Well, we're going to find out because their next game is Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern time start at home against the Nashville Predators. And look, the Predators right now, not doing so well. They are 20-30-7. That puts them 10 games under NHL 500, 12 points behind the Islanders. And, you know, this is a team that has not found consistency. They are next to last in the league in goals scored, 24th in the league in goals allowed. Their power play is 20th, which is still much better than the Islanders. Their penalty kill is good, at least. They're 10th with an 80.5% success rate. We know some of the names at the top of the scoring tables: Philip Forsberg, Jonathan Marchessault, Ryan O'Reilly, Steven Stamkos, but it's been a disappointment after former Islanders coach and now GM of the Predators, Barry Trotz, brought in a whole bunch of high-profile players. They have not been able to find their groove. Looking at their line combinations, it's Ryan O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg, and Gustav Nyquist as the top trio. Stamkos, Colton Sissons, and Jonathan Marchessault are the second line. Fedor Svechkov, centers Tommy Novak and Luke Evangelista on the third line, and from left to right on the fourth line, Kiefer Bellows, Michael McCarron, and Cole Smith. On the blue line, Brady Shea and Nick Blankenberg are the top pair. Mark Del Gazzo and Luke Shen are the second pairing, and then the third duo is Andreas Englund and Justin Barron, while the goalies right now are UC Saros and Justice Animan. On IR, a lot of injuries. It's hurt them all year. Adam Wilsby, Jeremy Lausen, Zachary Lerieux. Day-to-day, Roman Josi, he's a big part of this team offensively, and Mark Jankowski. We'll see if either of them are able to return for this game. And believe it or not, this is the first meeting between the Islanders and the Predators of the season. The second meeting will come April 8th in the Music City. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. But look, if you're still holding on to hope that the Islanders can make the playoffs, this Nashville Predators team doesn't score a lot. They are vulnerable. They are inconsistent, just like the Islanders, and they're underachieving. You cannot afford to not get 2 points in this game. Because Nashville is in the West, you can get it in overtime, you can get it in a shootout, it doesn't matter. But you have got to get 2 points. You don't get the 2 points against the team that's out of the playoff picture right now and isn't going to make the playoffs. Don't even bother telling me you're still in the hunt for the postseason. So it is an important game, but boy, oh boy, you got to get the 2 points. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And, well, today is the 60th birthday of former Islanders forward Mikko Makela. The native of Finland, 6'2", 200 pounds, a fourth-round pick of the Islanders back in 1983. Joined the Isles late in the joined them for the 85-86 season and stayed on the island through early in the 89-90 season. Then played for the Kings, the Sabres, went back to Finland and Sweden, played briefly for the Bruins, and then finished his career in Europe. Hung up his skates after the 98-99 season, played in 423 career NHL games, 118 goals, 265 points, 139 penalty minutes, add 3 goals, 11 points in 18 playoff games. 17 of those came with the Islanders, as did all of the scoring. His best year with the Isles, it's easy, 36 goals, 76 points in 73 games in 1987-88. And his best game with the Islanders, yeah, it came during that season. Islanders going to Landover, Maryland to take on the Washington Capitals at the Cap Center. Clint Malarchuk for the Washington Capitals, Billy Smith, the goalie for the Islanders. And in this game, with the score tied 1-1, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Mikko Makela scores with Scott Stevens in the box for hooking, Pat LaFontaine and Dennis Potvin with the assist. Islanders go up 2-1. It's 3-2 Isles after one period. But early in the third, Dale Hunter ties it at 3. But Pat Flatley makes it 4-3 Islanders. And then Mikko Makela, just a minute 8 after the Flatley goal, he scores. Brian Trottier and Greg Gilbert with the assists. And a couple of minutes later, it's Mikko Makela on the power play from Alan Kerr and Tomas Jansson. Islanders go on to win this game by a score of 6-4 for Mikko Makela, our Islanders birthday of the day. He had the hat trick. He scored the game-winning goal, and he scored those 3 goals on 5 shots on goal. Billy Smith, 31 saves in the Islanders' 6-4 win. That was the only career NHL hat trick for Mikko Makela. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, we will be back on Monday. We will have our key takeaways from the game Saturday against Nashville. And, of course, we will also preview Monday's game against the Rangers at Madison Square Garden. Make sure you join us for that. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.